Today, we're going to dive into a question that I think, really gets to a lot of us. What if the biggest, most painful setbacks in our lives aren't actually mistakes? What if they're part of a bigger, divine plan? We're going to follow an incredible story about faith, about destiny, and about learning to trust a path that you just can't see.
I mean, we've all been there, right? That sinking feeling in your gut that you've taken a major wrong turn somewhere? Well, this story is about a young man who felt exactly that long before a literal storm would throw him onto a path he could have never, ever imagined.
So let's meet Vishal. And like so many of us, he was young, he had these huge dreams, but he was living with this painful gap between the life he really wanted and the one he was actually living. He had these amazing ambitions, right? But they were constantly being drowned out by this nagging, persistent voice of self-doubt. You know the one. He was just paralyzed by the fear that he didn't have what it takes to make it.
This was the loop playing in his head. And instead of listening to his heart, to his passion, he listened to his fears. He was so terrified of failing that he decided it was safer not to even try.
So he did what a lot of us do. He compromised. And look, on paper, joining the merchant navy seemed like a smart move, a good salary, a chance to travel the world, but it was a safe choice. It was a detour from his real calling. He was building a resume, sure, but he wasn't really building his life. And for a little while, life was predictable, it was fine, but, fate, or maybe a divine plan, had a much more dramatic course correction in mind for him. One night, out on the water between Indonesia and Australia, everything was about to change. Out of nowhere, a massive cyclone just descends on them with this terrifying speed. Alarms are blaring, icy water starts flooding the lower decks, and within minutes, the entire ship is swallowed by the sea. In the absolute chaos of the rescue that followed, Vishal was gone. The next morning, he wakes up just coughing up salt water on some deserted beach. And that initial relief of being alive is immediately crushed by this horrifying realization. He survived the shipwreck, only to be completely and utterly trapped. And in that moment of just total hopeless despair, he cries out to God, to the universe, asking that question we all ask when we're faced with something unbearable. Why me? Why is this happening? He felt like his faith was being tested right to the breaking point. But after the crying stopped, he knew deep down he couldn't just give up. He had to try. And as he's desperately searching the shoreline for anything, he finds it. An old, weathered wooden box. It wasn't treasure, it was something way more valuable. It was a survival guide, left by someone who had been there before. It was a sign. Just a tiny flicker of hope in all that darkness.
And that guide gave him more than just skills, more than just how to fish or build a fire. It forced him to shed his old self. To survive this, he couldn't be a merchant navy sailor anymore. No, he had to become a fisherman, a builder, a survivor. So day by day, Vishal completely transformed. He learned the rhythms of the island, and using those new skills, he actually built himself a small home right by the sea. For the first time, he felt a sense of control, a sense of pride. But his test? It was far from over. A massive wave, an echo from some faraway earthquake, just slams into the island. And in one single devastating moment, his home, his tools, everything he had painstakingly built was just washed away. And of course, he despaired. He cursed the heavens. But then, something new emerged from inside him, a voice of pure resilience that said, "If I built it once, I can build it again." See, the wave had destroyed his house, but it couldn't destroy the man he had become. With this incredible newfound strength, Vishal rebuilt, feeling like he could survive absolutely anything. But it seems the divine plan had one final and seemingly cruel test waiting for him. He was starting to run out of food, but there was one coconut tree left on the island, full and healthy. It was his lifeline. It was the one thing that promised him he could last for weeks, maybe even months. And then a storm rolls in. A single bolt of lightning cracks through the sky, and it hits that one tree, setting it ablaze. Watching his very last hope burn to the ground, Vishal just collapses. He completely surrenders, believing this has to be the final, cruel sign that he is not meant to live. He cries himself to sleep, absolutely convinced that it's all over. But what he saw as the ultimate act of abandonment was in fact the ultimate act of grace. He's jolted awake by a sound he thought he would never, ever hear again. A ship's horn. And out in the distance, he sees it. A ship. And it's heading directly for his island. He can't believe his eyes. It's a miracle. Once he's safely on board, Just overwhelmed and tearful, he asks the captain the one question that's hammering in his mind. "After all this time, how in the world did you see me?" And the captain's answer, it reveals the entire point of his journey. "You sent the signal," he says. "We saw the big fire on the island. That lightning strike, the thing Vishal saw as his end, was the divine signal flare that led to his rescue. The moment of his greatest despair was actually the instrument of his salvation."
When Vishal finally got back to India, he was a completely different person. That island, it hadn't been a prison at all. It had been a training ground. It had stripped away all of his fear, all of his doubt, and it rebuilt him from the ground up. The boy who was afraid to fail, he was gone. And in his place stood a warrior, literally forged by that island. The hardship hadn't just taught him how to survive, it had given him the exact skills and the unshakable confidence he would need for the life he was always meant to live. And with this incredible new purpose, his story of survival became his greatest asset. He wrote a book, he started a business, and he became that content creator he'd always dreamt of being, inspiring millions of people. The shipwreck he thought was a curse was the very thing that made him fearless enough to finally achieve his destiny.
And that just leaves us with a final thought. We all face storms, right? We all feel stranded on our own islands of despair sometimes. But what if those moments aren't punishments? What if, like it was for Vishal, your greatest challenges are God's way of burning down what you think you need to send up the signal that will lead you to who you were truly meant to become? It's a powerful idea to hold on to, especially when the path ahead is unclear.